What is going on, guys? Welcome to another weekly Wednesday live stream. It's me, it's you, we're all here together, and I am so excited to talk to you guys today. We're going to be doing some Duskmorn spoilers. Most of the set has been spoiled at this point. There's still a few more things to be spoiled, but the majority of the important stuff has been spoiled. So we're going to go through everything that has been spoiled since the last time we spoke, and then we are going to be trying out some of the new remix draft on MTG Arena. They had this at the end of last set as well, right before the set came out. It's basically a really neat draft format, kind of similar to Cube, that's based very heavily around artifacts, synergies, and things like that. It's a great way to build your collection and get a hold of some older artifacts or some more obscure artifacts from like alchemy sets or things like that, because you do get to keep the cards from the draft, so it's pretty sweet. If you're just joining me, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that this gets out there and we can have more people, more chatting, and more fun. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right into these spoilers. All right. First up, we have the Black Overlord of the hold on, my there we go. Overlord of the Baelmerk. So we've got a 5-mana 5/5 with a 2-mana impending 5 ability. So for you get to impending 5 this for 2 mana. So puts 5 time counters on it, and sits on the battlefield after the effect happens, which is when it enters or attacks, mill 4 cards, then you may return a non-avatar creature card or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is kind of a nice addition to self-mill strategies, especially because you do this and then later on it's a 5/5. And when it becomes a 5/5, it doesn't have summoning sickness because it's been on the battlefield for 5 turns, so it can attack right away, mill some more cards into the graveyard. So a very good addition for those self-mill graveyard reanimation type strategies. I think this card is awesome, and we'll see a decent amount of play in those types of decks. Next, we have Waltz of Rage, 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, exile the top card of your library. You may play it until end of turn. Let me reread this really quickly and make sure I'm understanding how this works. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other. So it's basically like just like kind of like a board wipe that doesn't kill that creature, and then you get, if anything on your side of the battlefield dies due to this effect, you get to play those cards, but it's until your next turn. So that's actually pretty sweet, because you know, if you have to spend 5 mana on this and you have no additional mana, you at least have those cards exiled until your next turn when you have plenty of mana to cast them. So a very interesting red board wipe. I kind of like this. We'll have to see where this fits in. There is a lot of spoilers to go over, so I'm probably going to kind of dust over the commons a little bit, or maybe the uncommons that I already know are a little less exciting, like this one. This is kind of like a limited deal. I mean, I guess it could be good in standard. If there ends up being a rooms deck, I could see maybe this seeing some play in it. 1 mana artifact that you can pay 1 mana to sacrifice it, search for a basic, put it into your hand, or you can pay 3 mana to lock or unlock the door of a room that you control, activate only as a sorcery. So if there is a room deck, which there are a couple of cards we'll get to later that make that seem like it might be possible, then this does technically accelerate your ability to play one of the rooms that has a cheap side and a very expensive side. You can play the cheap side and then use the 3 mana ability to unlock the very expensive side, which is pretty sweet. We have Rip Spawn Hunter, which this art is so sick. We have a 4 mana Selesnya 4/4. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it is tapped, so this is a survival ability, reveal the top X cards of your library where X is its power. Put any number of creature and or vehicle cards with different powers from among them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom. This is pretty sweet. If you can like get this going, like you could draw a lot of cards with this, depending. This is the kind of stuff that makes me excited for bringing Joda back. Because, you know, when rotation happened, my Joda humans deck got completely butchered. And there were no humans in Bloomborough, so excited to see this. What's up, Joseph? Are sets always unique, or do they bring back set themes with new cards at times? No, they go back a lot of times. For instance, the Ixalan set most recently is not the first time we've been to Ixalan. There were 2 other Ixalan sets in the past, original Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan. Same thing with like Innistrad in Midnight Hunt. We've been to Innistrad 3 times now. We've been to Ravnica like 4 times, 5 times, something like that. So the sets themselves might be unique because the themes in the sets tend to be specific to whatever's going on in the story. But for the most part, it's not uncommon to see them go back to other themes, you know, like... This set is very unique. I don't know if we'll ever see another one like this, or at least for a long time, but this is a very unique set theme. So anyway, I really like Rip Spawn Hunter. I think that's going to be neat, and I'm excited to try a new Joda Humans legendary list at some point. This card's interesting. I can't quite figure out how I feel about it. So it's a 5 mana, 2/5 flyer. When it enters, return an enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand, or unlock a locked door of a room you control. Again, there are several cards that unlock rooms, and there are some room cards that have a cheap side and a very expensive side, you know, like a 3 or 4 mana side and a 7 or 8 mana side. And so if you play one of those cheaper sides earlier in the game, which we'll get to some of those later on in the spoilers here, and then you can play something like this to unlock a room that costs much more than that. That is a huge, huge mana value. So some of these cards, like even the key, like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about the key and it does end up being very good, but cards like this that can let us cheat that much mana are really strong potentially. And then on top of that, it has Eerie. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, or whenever you fully unlock a spirit, create a 3/1 spirit with flying. And this is not a once per turn or when 1 or more enchantments enter. This is a per enchantment trigger. So if you happen to be able to play several enchantments in a turn, you get multiple 3/1 white spirits. You have a way to give them haste, like the red Glimmer that we're gonna go over later. Like, oh, man, there are some crazy potential synergies in this deck, like, or in this set. So I think this card might just be busted. I don't know. It really just depends on whether or not the rooms that have very expensive sides end up being popular. I can think of at least 2 that will probably see play and make something like this worthwhile. So I'm very excited about this card. Keep your eyes on this card. I think it's going to be one that you're surprised by. We have Unidentified Hovership. This is such a cool flavor card. 3 mana, 1/2 white, flying 2/2 vehicle with crew 1, and when it enters, exile up to 1 target creature with toughness 5 or less. When Unidentified Hovership leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner manifests dread. So this is like an Oblivion Ring type effect, but they lose that creature forever. So this is really good. This hits Shieldred. This hits a lot of other big like threats in the format. And it exiles it. And yeah, they get a 2/2 out of it. And the 2/2 could potentially be a creature that they flip over. But the amount of stalling this does, this isn't just something that, you know, we play it, then they destroy it and they get their thing back, you know, like they have to work to get the value out of this. So, and then on top of that, it's a 2/2 flyer with crew 1. So if they can't deal with it, it's a threat, which is pretty sweet. We've got Dissection Tools, which this is kind of interesting. This reminds me of Batterskull. I don't know if it's going to be as good as Batterskull, but it's very, very close. What's up, Matthew Marshall? Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. So Batterskull was a 5 mana equipment with living weapons, so it would make a 0/0 germ, and it gave +4/+4 death touch and lifelink. And then you could pay 3 mana to bounce it back to your hand and recast it. And then the equip cost, I can't remember what the equip cost was on it, but it was very good in standard when it was in standard because you could recur it. You could just keep making 4/4s. This doesn't give +4/+4, but it does give +2/+2 Death Touch and Lifelink, and it does Manifest Dread. So when it enters, it makes a 4/4 with Death Touch and Lifelink essentially. And then the equip cost to sacrifice a creature. So if you're playing like a token strategy and you want to just like have this sitting around to be able to slap onto your 1/1s or things like these 3/1 flying spirits or whatever, it's pretty sweet. So I don't know if this will see play, but I like the flavor of it. I like the ability. I think it's an interesting equipment, and one of the better interesting. Yeah, I think it was 5 equip, Matthew. I think you're right. But this does have vibes of Batterskull. It's not as good as Batterskull, but it's like if they tried to make Batterskull balanced, because in the standard it was not balanced. We've got Unnerving Grasp, 2 and a blue sorcery, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and Manifest Dread. It's okay, so if you think about it right now, for 1 mana to return a non-land permanent, you have to gift a fish. Into the Flood Maw is the best bounce spell we have right now in standard. And if you want to target any non-land permanent, you have to give them a 1/1. This costs 3 mana to do the same thing, and it's not an instant, but it does give you a 2/2 that could potentially be better, and depending, it is a blue card, it could fuel graveyard reanimation strategy, since Manifesting Dread does let you put one of the 2 cards you look at into the graveyard. So we'll have to see. We got Living Phone, which I love this artwork. Gives me real Toy Story vibes from the little phone in the 4th Toy Story. It's all creepy. It's a 3 mana artifact toy, 2/1. When Living Phone dies, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 2 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom. Power 2 or less is not a big restriction. There are some really good creatures with power 2 or less. You think about things like Creature of the Schism or Comball, just a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of very valuable creatures that have power 2 or less. You could even play this with Delny and be able to. This would trigger twice when it dies, and then you get more creatures with power 2 or less, and more triggers with Delny, and all kinds of fun stuff. So I think the toys in this set, like some of these commons and uncommons do not feel like they match their rarity. I would even argue that this is better than a common. And then you'll see some of the toy cards in this set they're uncommons, most of them, and they're busted. So we'll get to those in a little bit, but yeah, Lauren's power 2, that's a perfect example. This basically gives you, it's top 5 cards. That's a good amount of digging, so like you can kind of toolbox it with this. We've got Cackling Slasher, which, look at that artwork, that's hilarious. It's a 4 mana 3/3 with Death Touch. It enters with a +1/+1 counter if a creature died this turn. Nothing crazy there, just a fun artwork, neat limited card. Winter's Intervention. We basically have Soren's Thirst back in standard. So 2 mana, 2 damage, gain 2 life. Not bad. It's a good sideboard card against things like Mono Red. It may even make it into main decks in standard, in best of 1 at least, because of how prevalent Mono Red is. But the card's decent. It's a very good common to have back in standard, and I'm glad to see it. Unfortunately, I am not fancy with my technology, so I can't like turn these sideways for you. So I'm just gonna have to turn my head all creepy like. Does this make you feel uncomfortable? It's uncomfortable for me. Anyway, Painter Studio. When you unlock this door, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them till the end of your next turn. So it's basically, what is that 2 mana spell that does it? Ren's Resolve does the same thing. It's 2 mana, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You can cast them to your next turn. This costs one more, but it comes with another card on it, so that's kind of the caveat there. And then for 2 mana, whenever you attack, attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So this is obviously meant to play probably the 2 mana side first, and then play the 3 mana side when unlock the 3 mana side when you're running out of steam. This card's pretty bonkers. It triggers prowess and then gives like if you play a couple of prowess creatures, so like otters for instance, or mono red if you're playing a more prowess strategy than instead of fling strategy, all your prowess creatures are going to trigger off of this, and then when they attack they all get +1/+0 additional. Pretty powerful effect for 2 mana. So I like this card a lot, and as much as I hate mono red, I think this is going to be a decent option for decks that want to play a more prowess heavy route, or even just otters. Like this would be very good in otters as well. All right, we have Ripchain Razorkin, 4 mana, 5/3 reach, sacrifice land, draw a card. Good limited bomb, nothing too crazy there. Beastie Beatdown. This one's interesting. 2 mana, it's Gruul colors. Choose target creature you control and target creature an opponent controls. If you have Delirium, put 2 +1/+1 counters on the creature you control. The creature you control deals damage equal to its power to the creature an opponent controls. So it's a bite spell. But if you have Delirium, you get to pump your creature up by 2 +1/+1 counters, which is pretty sweet. Surgical Suite Hospital Room. I'm gonna do the uncomfortable thing again. When you unlock this door, this is Surgical Suite, so 2 mana. When you unlock this door, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Solid effect. And then 4 mana for Hospital Room. Whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. That's not crazy for 4 mana. Like, if I was paying just 4 mana for an enchantment that did that, I would not. But the fact that you get such a solid ability from the 2 mana, and then later on, if you just have a turn where you don't have anything to do, you can put counters on attacking creatures. That's pretty sweet. This is a good example of one of those rooms where it has a cheap room, and then a room where, you know, maybe the mana value is kind of high, but it's not a bad room to unlock, where that, like, Spirit would be good for unlocking this for free. Like, oh, I just got a 4 mana enchantment for free. That's pretty cool. We have Get Out. 2 blue, counter target creature or enchantment spell, or return 1 or 2 target creatures and or enchantments you own to your hand. So this is kind of neat, because if you're playing control, it counters creatures and enchantment spells, which we know are going to be very prevalent after this set releases. Or if you're playing this in sort of like a tempo deck, you can bounce some creatures or enchantments you control if your opponent's trying to destroy them, which is pretty cool. So I like this card. I think it's versatile, and I think it will see some amount of play. We got to go to the translation on this one. I read it earlier, but I want you guys to be able to read it as well. So I guess this doesn't really help a whole lot with how wide this is. Marina Vendrell. She is all 5 colors, legendary human warlock. Joda. I love Joda. But this is a build around for rooms, which I think is pretty sweet, actually. When it enters, reveal the top 7 cards of your library, put all enchantment cards revealed this way into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So if you build your deck properly, this should on average draw you at least 2, maybe 3 cards. That's pretty reasonable, because you have to think all the glimmers in this set are enchantment creatures. So like, you're not sacrificing anything by playing those types of things. You even have enchantment lands, which I talked about it on Facebook. The Valgavoth's Lair, the enchantment land, it has hexproof, and it's an enchantment, and you can choose a color when it enters. It enters tapped, and everyone's like, oh, it's a terrible land. But I don't think they're understanding that, like, a thing like this, like, now all of a sudden you're getting a land, a creature, an actual enchantment. You know, it allows you to really build a critical mass of enchantments in your enchantment based deck. So this card's pretty ridiculous. And then it's just tap it to close, to open or close target room you control. Now you might be saying, why would I want to close a room? And there are a couple of cards, like the key that I mentioned earlier, that can close a room. Well, maybe you want to get that effect again after you open it. If it's not a static effect, it's like a when you open this room, get a thing. You might want to close it so you can reopen it. And so if you have the red glimmer on the battlefield, which again we'll get to in a little bit, the red glimmer it's basically Ogre Battle Driver, but on a glimmer. This would have haste, and you could tap it to open or close a room if you had something on the battlefield you really wanted to open. So let's get back to this page. We have Killer's Mask, 3 mana. When Killer's Mask enters, manifest Dread, then attach Killer's Mask to that creature. Equipped creature has Menace, and equip 2. So it's not that crazy of an equipment. It's a 3 mana 2/2 with Menace essentially, and then like if you get lucky and you get a creature that is really good underneath it and you can flip it face up, that's pretty nice because it has Menace, but it's nothing too crazy. Maybe it could see some play in decks that really need to just put a lot of permanents onto the battlefield for sacrificing or things like that. Anything that makes 2 permanents for 1 card is quite good in this meta because you have things like Snake and several other like sacrifice type strategies that might be useful. So Fear of Exposure, it's a 3 mana 5/4 trample, and as additional cost you have to tap 2 untapped creatures and or lands you control. What's up, John Doe? He was revealed. I'll scroll back up real quickly and go over it, but Overlord of the Baelmerk, 5 mana 5/5 impending 5 for 2 mana. When he enters or attacks, mill 4 cards, and then you may return a non-avatar or creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. So he's basically a mill or reanimator strategy enabler, and he's pretty sweet. So but I've gone over quite a few cards. You can always go back later and watch the rest, but glad to have you. Make sure you guys hit that like button as you're coming in, just to get this out to more people. The more the merrier. I love talking to you guys. And let's move on to September 10th spoilers. A lot more uncommons in these spoilers, so we'll try to go a little more quickly through these. We have Miasma Demon, 6 mana 5/4 with flying. When it enters, you may discard any number of cards. When you do, up to that many target creatures each get -2/-2 until end of turn. This is actually kind of an interesting card. Probably not going to see standard play, but it's really good and limited. And who knows, it could see some standard play. That's a pretty unique and powerful effect for an uncommon. I don't think so. I actually... His impending cost is much cheaper than everybody else's. And it kind of draws you a card, maybe. If you build your deck properly, on average, it should get you something back. So it's 2 mana, draw a card, and then later, hey, it's a 5/5. I don't think it's bad. I think it's on par with the other ones, but for a different reason. Like the other ones... Like you got the green one that makes the domain land, which that card's ridiculous. It's 3 mana. It's like Topiary Stomper, but so much better because it's bigger than Topiary Stomper. And Topiary Stomper basically didn't matter as a creature for several turns after you played it because you had to get to 7 lands first. So kind of the same idea as impending, right? Granted, you could turn it into a creature faster than you can the other one, but it also didn't just enable domain by itself. So the red one, I actually think the red one's kind of bad. I don't think it's terrible, but I think it's 4 mana to deal 4 damage to something is not that exciting. The white one and the blue one feel pretty cool. But I think the black one's all right. So we've got Exercise, 2 mana sorcery, exile target artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater. This is very versatile for 2 mana. I don't know how much it'll see play. It'll probably definitely see play in sideboards and best of 3. But we'll have to see. Let's play a game. 4 mana, Delirium, choose 1. If you have Delirium, if you have Delirium, you can choose 1 or more instead. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. Each opponent discards 2 cards, or each opponent loses 3 life and gains 3 life. This card is terrible for 4 mana if you don't have Delirium. So You would have to put this in a deck that can enable Delirium very, very easily, because any of these effects for 4 mana by themselves are awful. So keep that in mind. Osseous, Stick Twister, 2 mana 2/2 with light. This is what I'm talking about. Look at this uncommon. It's just a 2 mana 2/2 with lifelink. Delirium, at the beginning of your end step, if you have Delirium, each opponent may sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. Then Osseous Stick Twister deals damage equal to its power to each opponent who didn't sacrifice a permanent or discard a card this way. So for 2 mana, you get a 2/2 with lifelink, which is decent. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you. Welcome. That's decent on its own, and it's an artifact creature, which could be potentially pretty relevant in this set. And then every turn, it deals additional damage if they don't want to discard or sacrifice things. So it's basically kind of like a baby snake, you know? And it has lifelink, so when it deals that damage, because it says it deals damage equal to its power, you're also gaining life. So it's, you know, deal 2, gain 2, which is sweet. We have Cathartic Parting. The owner, 2 mana sorcery, green. The owner of target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls shuffles it into their library. You may shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library. This is pretty sweet. I like that it removes it, like, kind of by shuffling it, so it's sort of like an exile effect. And being able to shuffle some stuff from your graveyard into your library can be pretty sweet in a mill strategy where maybe you accidentally milled something you need and you want it back in your library. I think this is a pretty interesting include in a deck like that. Enduring Vitality. This is such a good Glimmer. It's a 3 mana 3. So think about it this way. If you remove the fact that it's a Glimmer and it has the Glimmer effect, a 3 mana 3/3 Vigilant with tap, add a color of your choice would be good enough to see play in something. What's up, Mobius? Good to see you. Welcome. The fact that this makes all your creatures tap for mana of any color, like Cryptolith Rite was just a 2 mana enchantment that did that with no other benefit. It wasn't a creature, it didn't do anything. This is a creature with decent stats and vigilance, so you can attack with it and use it for mana. And then if it dies, it just comes back as an enchantment. It just comes back as Cryptolith, right? So all your creatures can just tap that a mana of any color. This card's great. I guarantee you this will see play in something. We've got Duskmorn's Domination, 4 and 2 blue. This card confuses me. I don't get what's going on with this card. Like, I'm super confused. So correct me if I'm wrong. But when I read this card, I see Enchant Creature. You control Enchanted Creature. Enchanted Creature gets -3, -0, and loses all abilities. Why? Why would anyone play this in any setting? It's 6 mana. Effects like this usually cost 5 mana, and they just give you control of it. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't understand. Well, especially, Daniel, because in Foundations... Yeah, but why? This is like... because it triggers Eerie, all of it, like, I'm going to pay 6 mana for a terrible... Like, this has got to be the worst card in the set. Like, you steal a creature, cool, you have the creature, but you don't get any of the cool stuff about the creature because it loses all its abilities and you're crippling its power. Like, this is the worst thing. And it's an uncommon. Why? Why is this an uncommon? Like, this wouldn't even, I wouldn't even play this in limited. Like, for any reason. There's no there's nothing I would want to play this on. Anyway, what I was trying to say is, in Foundations, Daniel, we're getting Llanowar Elves. So Llanowar Elves on turn 1 into this on turn 2. Now your Llanowar Elves is a Birds of Paradise. So yeah, your standard ramp's going to be crazy in this set and with Foundations. So we've got Brood Spinner this is a pretty sweet card. I like this card a lot. Golgari 2-drop, Reach 2/3. When it enters, Surveil 2. That's decent on its own, right? There are a lot of good uncommons in this set, RD3000. I agree with you. That is not one of them, though. This is one of them. You can also pay 6 mana and sacrifice it to create a number of 1/1 black and green insect creature tokens with flying equal to the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. So that's a pretty sweet, like, late game mana sink payoff. You know, if you, for whatever reason, like, let's say you can't get through with it because it's a 2/3, or maybe your opponent goes to remove it, and you sacrifice it and get a bunch of insects. That's pretty sweet, in my opinion. All right, we got Kona Rescue Beastie. Look at this cute, adorable beast survivor. It's a 4 mana 4/3. At the beginning of your second main phase, if he is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. This is really interesting. This is such a good cheat, and with something, so like, let's imagine like a hey Sarah, welcome. Let's imagine like a Sultai list that's running Enduring Vitality, right? So you play like Kona Rescue Beastie and Enduring Vitality, and there's a card called Lost in the Maze that was printed in Murders at Karlov Manor that I think a lot of people have forgotten about, that you can pay like X mana and tap some creatures and put stun counters on them. But it also says tapped creatures you control have hexproof. So if you can tap this for mana, like in response to a removal spell, all of a sudden it has hexproof, and then at the end of your turn you get a free big thing like Valgavoth or something crazy. I know that's a pie in the sky idea, but the card alone, even if you can just protect it, Relic of Legends is a great one. Yeah, you can tap it, because that you can actually tap it the turn it comes into play. That's a very good point, Mobius. Relic of Legends, yeah, you can tap this for mana with Relic of Legends, and it doesn't matter that it's summoning sick. So the turn this comes into play, you can immediately tap it and put something crazy huge into play, maybe like Valgavoth. All right, so moving on, we have Live or Die. I like this card. It's an instant speed reanimation spell. We haven't had one of those in a while, and I love reanimation strategies. I love cheating out big, giant, huge, scary things, and we do have quite a few good, big, giant, scary things in this set. And if you don't, it's nice that it has the destroy target creature on there also. You know, like, no, paying 5 mana to destroy a creature is not good. But when the card says get something from your graveyard at instant speed onto the battlefield too, all of a sudden now we're cooking. I think this card is actually very good. This is one of those uncommons that I think should probably have been a rare, in my opinion, because 5 mana reanimation is pretty standard. We actually have a 4 mana cost reanimation spell in the set as well, that even has flashback, which we'll get to later on down the list. But 5 mana instant speed, that's pretty sick. Like, I think this is a pretty cool card. We have Sporogenic Infection, 2 mana for enchant creature. When it enters, target player sacrifices a creature other than the enchanted creature, and then when the enchanted creature is dealt damage, destroy it. This is kind of interesting. I don't know if this will see play in standard, but it's a very cool, unique, interesting card. It turns, like, if you've got, like, you know, a bunch of little creatures like rats or something, you know, on the battlefield, and you play something like this, they're forced to sacrifice. So if they have 2 creatures, you can pick which one they sacrifice, and then whatever's left over, if you block it or they block with it, it dies, which is pretty sweet. It does go nice with dying triggers, and it's also nice if you have first strike creatures too. So if you play this in something like Orzhov and you've got some first strike creatures, well, now all of a sudden, even if they block with it, the creature dies before your creature even gets dealt damage. We've got Jump Scare, this is hilarious artwork, and flavor text too. It just says boo. 1 mana instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+2, gains flying, and becomes a horror enchantment creature in addition to its other types. So pretty solid little combat trick, nothing too crazy. Now this one I think is pretty interesting. This is going to make like an Is It Spellslinger prowess deck really good. It cycles itself. It's 1 mana, draw a card, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. This card's really good. Like, this is a really solid common. I think you're going to see a lot of this common in like wizardy, prowess, otter, you know, type strategies. I like the card a lot. We have Paranormal Analyst, 2 mana, 1/3 Human Detective. Whenever you manifest dread, put a card you put into your graveyard this way into your hand. So it basically lets you draw the other card that you're manifesting. So if you build a deck that's built around manifesting dread, this card's really sweet. It's an okay blocker. It's a 1/3 for 2, and all your manifest dreads now make a 2/2 and draw you a card because you draw whatever you choose not to manifest. So pretty sweet. We have a 2 mana 2/2 leech with Eerie. Whenever a enchantment you control enters or whenever you fully unlock a room, each opponent loses 1 life. Pretty solid little payoff if you're going to make a lot of enchantment creatures or tokens or whatever. We have Spectral Snatcher, 6 mana 6/5 ward, discard a card, and Swamp Cycling 2. Not crazy or anything. I like, it's a good ward. All right, we've got Rampaging Soul Rager. This is a 3 mana 1/4 spirit, and it gets +3/+0 as long as there are 2 or more unlocked doors among rooms you control. I don't think this is going to see any play. Very good and limited, though. Frantic Strength. I can talk. Frantic Strength. There we go. 2 and a green for an aura with flash, enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has trample. That's an okay combat trick, you know. Being able to give something trample that the opponent wasn't expecting to have trample can be brutal. And if you're playing a deck that triggers Eerie, maybe this sees some play, but I think there are better options than this for what the effect is doing. Manifest Dread. Guess what? It manifests dread. 2 mana green sorcery, manifest dread. I think this has got to be the laziest card design. They're just like, what if we just had a card that says what it does in the title? I'm really excited about Vannifar and Yaris from Murders at Karlov Manor. I think there's going to be some fun shenanigans with that. We've got Malevolent Chandelier, which this is some really cool art. I don't think it's a very great card, but it's really cool art. 6 mana, 4/4 flyer. Pay 2 mana to put a card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. It's a limited card that helps you not mill out your 40 card deck if you have a long game. That's about it. This is... I'm not going to pull this one up because I know what it does off the top of my head. Actually, you know what? I don't know what the keyword is. It has flash. Okay. But it triggers whenever... It's an enchantress. It's a blue enchantress with flash. It's actually really good. I think this will definitely see some play in any kind of enchantment-based deck. Bant enchantments, watch out for it. We've got Conductive Machete, 4 mana for a Manifest Dread equipment. So this automatically attaches to it. The equipped creature gets +2/+1. It's nothing too crazy. It makes a 4/3, and then you can equip it for 4 to something else. So nothing too crazy. This was all stuff for the commander deck, so I'm not going to go over that because most of you guys are here for arena stuff. If you want to see this stuff, it is at mythicspoiler.com, or you can go to any other spoiler site. These are pretty cool cards. This was from the Miracles deck that is coming out, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over those right now. These were some really sweet spoilers from this day. So let's go ahead and start with Marvin. Hold on, let me scroll up. Marvin the Murderous Mimic. Look at this creepy art. 2 mana for a 2/2. Marvin, Murderous Mimic, has all activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature. So any activated abilities your creatures have, he has them too. And he's creepy and awesome, and I like him. We have Withering Torment. A lot of people have been talking about this one because it feels like they're breaking the color pie, but Mark Rosewater has spoken about it at length, that they are kind of, and have been slowly over the last year or so, trying to give black a way to destroy enchantments, specifically destroying their own enchantments, because most mono black cards that have been printed that can destroy an enchantment can only destroy an opponent's enchantment. And the reason for that is because black is the color that has all the self-punish enchantments that deal damage to them for bonuses, like my brain is not working right now and I'm struggling to remember it. The 3-mana enchantment that you draw a card and lose a life every turn. I know the name of it, but I can't remember it for some reason off the top of my head right now. So this actually gives them a way to destroy their own enchantments so they don't die to them, which is interesting. But it's just a good card in general in black, and I think it will definitely see play. I don't think we're going to have anything to remove toxic counters anytime soon, to be honest. All right, so Enduring Courage. This one's great. I love Enduring Courage. Super cute flame pupper. We like flame puppers. It's a 4-mana 3/3. Whenever another creature you control enters, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn, which is Ogre Battle Driver. But when this dies, it comes back as an enchantment that does the same thing. So now every creature you play, as long as this dies. So I would suggest highly playing this in a deck that has some kind of sacrifice outlet or instant or sorcery that lets you sacrifice something, because you definitely don't want this getting exiled. But it's going to turn everything you have into a hasty attacker with +2 attack, and I think it is amazing. I think this card will see play in a lot of different strategies, and I like it. All right, back to the creepy head turn. Grand Entryway, Elegant Rotunda. So we've got a 2-mana. Whenever you unlock this, create a 1/1 white glimmer creature token. Nothing too crazy, but it's an enchantment creature, so triggering Eerie, pretty sweet there. And then for 3 mana, whenever you unlock this door, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So it's a common. It's not anything too crazy. It's mostly a limited card, but it could see some play in standard, so we'll see. All right, we've got, yeah, the Black Overlord's not crazy, but I think it's solid. I don't think it's like, whoa, holy crap, that card's the best thing in the whole universe. But I think it's solid, and I think it'll see play. We've got Witcherfolk Thresher, 4-mana 5/4 Delirium. Whenever it attacks, if you have Delirium, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. This is actually not awful for an uncommon. I mean, it's a 4-mana 5/4, and then whenever it attacks, you can get lands. And if it's not a land, you get to draw a card. It's not bad. Rootwise Survivor, 5-mana 3/4 haste with survival. When it is tapped at the end of your turn, put 3 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature, or on, sorry, 1 target land you control, and that land becomes a 0/0 elemental creature in addition to its other types and gains haste until your next turn. It's pretty awesome, but I don't quite understand the second part of that last bit of the ability. I don't understand why it gains haste until your next turn. Maybe it's so that if you played the land this turn and you choose that land, yeah, I guess if you had a way to make 2 combat phases, that could be relevant. It's really fringe though. I think it's more so that if you choose a land that you played this turn, you can still tap it for mana, is what I'm guessing. But I don't know. It's an uncommon. I don't think it'll see play in standard, but it's a cool card. Neat art. Gremlin Tamer. I like this card. I think it's interesting. 2-mana 2/2, and whenever an enchantment you control enters and whenever you fully unlock a room, you get a 1/1 Gremlin creature token. It's pretty cool. Abhorrent Oculus. Now this card's interesting. Let's say you, on turn 2, play, what is it called? I'm reading too many cards, and I cannot remember names of cards all of a sudden. It's the 2-mana enchantment with Read Ahead that lets you cast an instant or sorcery with mana value 2 or less from your hand. And then on the following chapter, it mills you 4 cards. So let's say you do that, and then you cast a mill spell from your hand for 2 mana, right? And then on the second chapter, you mill 4 more cards. Now you have 8 cards in your graveyard. So on turn 3, you can cast this and still keep 2 things that you want in your graveyard, and you have a 3 mana 5/5. And at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest Dread. So effectively, if this survives until your opponent's upkeep, you've just gotten 7 power and 7 toughness for 3 mana and exiling a few cards out of your graveyard. Is there a strategy that takes advantage of this? I don't know. The artwork is super cool. And I think it's a really interesting card. And if you can abuse this in a good way, I think this will see play. Also, I love in the artwork, in the release trailer that I covered, the artist was talking about how the entire plane is just a giant house. Like, this looks like it's outside, but you can actually see in the artwork the big window in the background, which is pretty cool. Oh, yeah, well, hey, that's true. Helping Hand. Yeah, actually, that's pretty good idea. Helping Hand, discard this, and Helping Hand it on turn 2. That's pretty funny. There's a BLP for 1 green that mills 4. Yeah, that's a cash grab. Yeah, it's really cool. It looks like it's like a creepy outside ocean area, but no, it's just a big cathedral area looking thing. All right, so here's another one that I really like. We got Valgavoth's Onslaught, XX green. Manifest Dread X times, then put X +1/+1 counters on each of those creatures. This card is ridiculous. In any kind of ramp strategy, like at 3 mana, you get a 3/3. So is that crazy? No, it's not crazy, but it's decent. So you can cast this for 3 mana and it's decent. For 5 mana, you get 2 4/4s. Yes, I've had people on Facebook, because I talked about this on Facebook, and everyone was like, but Severin, it's 2 2/2s with counters on them. That's relevant. It is relevant, because if you have, like, let's say a fully leveled up Innkeeper's Talent on the battlefield, they come in with double the counters. So that's 5 mana for 2 6/6s now, which is pretty sweet. And then also in other formats, if there's things that stop counters from getting put on them, then obviously that makes this worse. But in standard, this card is going to be very good, and there are ways to abuse it even further. And then at 7 mana, you're talking 3 5/5s, 15 power for 7 across 3 bodies for 7 mana. That's pretty sweet. And that's not even to say that some of those Manifest Dreads are going to be better creatures that you can flip over, and having those extra counters on them is going to be ridiculous. You know, lifelink creatures or creatures with crazy effects, or, you know, what have you. This card's really cool. I think that, like, I'm going to build something around this, and it's going to be great. And you guys are going to see that eventually. So, Optimistic Scavenger, 1 mana 1/1 with Eerie. Whenever you trigger the Eerie, put a counter on target creature. It's not bad. It's actually pretty good. It's a white version of the green creature that rotated, that did the same thing. Whenever an enchantment entered, you could put a counter on a creature. So that card saw tons of play. So this card will see play too. Midnight Mayhem. Create 3 1/1 red gremlin creature tokens. Gremlins you control gain menace and lifelink and haste until end of turn. This card is so cool. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you play this after you play War Leader's Call, and now you're getting 3 2/2s, pinging the opponent for 3 damage, and these gain menace, lifelink, and haste until end of turn. This is such a fun card. Like, and it's an uncommon. Like, even for 4 mana, it's still 4 mana, make 3 power, 3 toughness, separate of hasty, menacey lifelinkers. Like, but this gets ridiculous if you have any kind of Anthem on the battlefield. So I will be playing this in something. Like, I like that card a lot. Intruding Soul Rager. We have, is it 2-drop, 2/2 Vigilant, sacrifice a room, Intruding Soul Rager deals 2 damage to each opponent, draw a card. This can be really nice if you have some rooms in in play that you don't need anymore. Like maybe they don't have an ongoing effect and you've already gotten your value out of it and you just don't need it anymore to deal some extra damage and draw a card. It's a nice like emergency pinch kind of situation. Sick artwork, but I don't think it'll see play. Even if there is a room deck, I think this card is a little bit far-fetched. We have some comments here. I'm talking too much. I'm starting to mispronounce things. Flesh Burrower. 2 mana 2/2 Death Touch. Whenever it attacks another target creature you control gains Death Touch until end of turn. That's not the worst 2/2. For a common, it's actually pretty okay. So it won't probably see play in standard, but it's not bad. 3 mana 2/3 in green. Elf Warrior with Vigilance. Whenever a face down permanent you control enters, or whenever Cryptid Inspector or another permanent you control's turn faced up, put a +1/+1 counter on Cryptid Inspector. Not a terrible common. Definitely a little over costed for the mana value, or for the power and toughness, but we'll see. Maybe it sees some play in a Vannifar type deck. 3 mana Defiant Survivor in green. 3/2 with survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, Manifest Dread. That's actually not terrible. It's just a 3/2 that if it survives combat or you can tap it some way, you get a free Manifest Dread, which is pretty cool. Cautious Survivor. 4 mana 4/4 with survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, you gain 2 life. Good limited card. Nothing too crazy about it. I like this card a lot. Coordinated Clobbering. 1 mana, tap 1 or 2 target untapped creatures you control. They each deal damage equal to their power to target creature and opponent controls. It's kind of bad that you have to tap them, but if you like say play a creature or two in one turn and then you do this like while they're summoning, sick. That's pretty sweet. It's also, I guess, a way to tap creatures for survival without having to go into combat, which is also nice. So I think this card will see some play. I don't think it's as good as some of the 1 mana bite spells we have, but it's definitely an interesting one. And if you're playing creatures with survival, this will definitely be very good. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, definitely hit that like button on your way in so that we can get more people in here chatting. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that so you can catch all these live streams. I stream every Wednesday at 8 p.m. EST. And yeah, we always have a good time. We do different stuff every week. Sometimes it's standard brews. Sometimes it's stuff like this where I go over spoilers and do some limited. So lots of fun, and I enjoy spending time with you guys. So let's keep going. We've got Ragged Playmate, 2 mana 2/2. Pay 1, target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. It's an alright common, nothing too crazy. Impossible Inferno, 5 mana instant to deal 6 damage to a target. If you have Delirium, exile the top card of your library and you may play it until your next turn. Very good in limited, not very good in constructed. Most Valuable Slayer, 4 mana for a 2/4. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature you control gets +1/+1, gains first strike until end of turn. Again, another limited common, nothing too crazy. There's a lot of just commons here, but we'll go over them anyway just in case there's something spicy in here. Bound Footage, 1 mana for an artifact clue. You may look at face down creatures your opponents control at any time. Pay 2 mana, sacrifice it, surveil 2, then draw a card. Not a bad effect. Could be a sideboard card if there happens to be like a really crazy breakout Manifest Dread deck and we really need to see what's under those things, but I don't know. Friendly Teddy, 2 mana, 2/2 bear toy, artifact, colorless. Whenever it dies, each player draws a card. All right. Murder. We all know what murder does. 3 mana, destroy a creature. Resurrected Cultist, 3 mana for a 4/1 with Delirium. Pay 2 and 2 black. Return it from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it if you have Delirium. Nothing too crazy. Hardened Escort, 3 mana for a 2/4 human soldier. Whenever it attacks another target creature you control gets +1/+1, gains indestructible till end of turn. That's actually not terrible for a common. Being able to give something indestructible so that you can protect something. It's got a decent toughness, so it's not like it's scared to get into combat, so Who knows? Maybe you'll see some play in a humans deck. Friendly Ghost. Casper, the Friendly Ghost. We've got 4 mana for a 2/4 flying, and when it enters, target creature gets +2/+4 until end of turn. Pretty good and limited. That's about it. Unable to Scream. It's an interesting card name. It's kind of spooky. 1 mana for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. It loses all abilities and is a toy artifact creature with base power 0, power and toughness 0/2 in addition to its other types. As long as enchanted creature is face down, it cannot be turned face up. It's all right. It's definitely an interesting common. Could potentially be something useful on the sideboard. We have Innocuous Rat. 2 mana for a 1/1 rat. When it dies, manifest dread. This could be actually pretty good in a rat deck. So we'll have to see. Being able to... It's Doom Dissenter, but a rat. And it makes a manifest dread token instead of a zombie. We have Banish from Sight. 4 mana, instant. Target non-land permanent's owner puts it on top or bottom of their library. Surveil 1. Nothing too crazy there. Now, this is a... this is not in English, so hold on a second here. Hey, when I do it like this, it's sideways and translated. Cool. We have Charred Fourier for 4 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So this is basically a red version of... gosh, why can I not remember the name of that card right now? It's really frustrating. The black enchantment. You lose a life, draw a card every turn. Forgive me, I don't know what's gotten into me today. Can't remember the name of the card. Does the same thing, but for red, for 1 extra mana. And then Warped Space is a 6 mana. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast from exile. So let's say you're playing Boros with that spirit that we looked at the beginning. And you play this on 4. Now on turn 5, you're exiling a card from the top of your library that you can play this turn. You play the spirit, unlock Warped Space, and so now you are getting a 2/5 flyer. Yeah, Phyrexian Arena, thank you. I don't know why I was struggling so hard to remember the card. I play against it all the time, but my brain was just like, nah, you're not going to be able to remember things today. So anyway, I see a world where you play this on turn 4, right? Which it's not great to play this on turn 4. But if you're playing like a kind of control-y strategy with that spirit and rooms and stuff, you play this on turn 4, you play the spirit on turn 5, unlock Warped Space, get a 3/1 flyer, so now you have a 2/5 flyer and a 3/1 flyer, and then you can play whatever the card you exiled is for free. And then continue to do that every turn. That's pretty crazy. So, I don't know. It's a mythic. I don't know if it's worth being a mythic, but it's definitely an interesting card in like a Boros mid-range deck, I think, where you can play that spirit that unlocks rooms for free. Let's back it up. I clicked the back button. Why aren't we going back? There we are. All right. Another not English card. Fear of Abduction. 6 mana for a 5/5 enchantment creature nightmare. As an additional cost to cast the spell, exile a creature you control. It has flying, and when it enters, exile target creature an opponent controls. When the Fear of Abduction leaves the battlefield, return each card exiled with it to their owner's hand. I don't think this is going to see play in standard, but it's a really neat idea. I like the effect. I think it's really cool. I love that they kind of leaned into the aliens theme a little bit in the set. I think that's really cool. Arabella Abandoned Dawn. Now this one I like. Why am I clicking on all the cards all of a sudden? I'm like, oh, I have to click on everything. Arabella Abandoned Doll. Boros 2-drop. 1/3. Whenever it attacks, Abandoned Doll deals X damage to each opponent and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. Delny. Plus this. Plus some of the other artifact toy creatures in the set. It's going to be ridiculous. This card is super awesome. I love it. And it's super creepy artwork. We got another one that is not in English. So private office for 2 white. Whenever you unlock this, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. This works with the spirit too, because guess what? The spirit only has power 2. So, but let's say you play this on turn 4, blow up the board with all the big, any big creatures that are on the battlefield. Even mono red and stuff like that, a lot of times might have, a majority of their creatures being 3 power, thanks to enchantment buffs, things like that. And then you play the spirit that unlocks the 7 mana room for free. And now you have a 2/5 flyer, a 3/1 flyer, and all of your permanents have hexproof. That's awesome. Like, I think that spirit's going to be really cool. And there's some really neat rooms that take advantage of that kind of ability. We've got another non-English one here, so let me click on it. Nashi Shadow Seeker. Blue-black, 2-drop. 2/2 with Menace, Rat Ninja Wizard. Each time Nashi deals combat damage to a player, you mill that many cards. You may put any number of legendary and or enchantment cards from among those milled cards into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter on Nashi. This is a very solid 2-drop, and this is definitely going to see play in Rat decks if Rat decks continue to be prevalent. So I expect to see Nashi around on the ladder at least a little bit. We have Fear of Falling, 5 mana, 4/4 flying. When it attacks, target creature defending player controls gets -2 and loses flying till your next turn. Nothing too crazy there. Fear of Being Hunted, 3 mana for a 4/2 haste, and it has to be blocked. Not crazy, but it's all right. I mean, it's sort of, you can think of it as a 3 mana deal 4 to something, maybe, if they have something you really want them to block with, but probably not seeing play. Vengeful Possession, 3 mana, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste. You may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So it's a threaten effect that lets you loot. We have House Cartographer, 2 mana for a 2/2 with survival at the beginning of your second main phase. If it is tapped, reveal cards from top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put that card into your hand and the rest in the bottom. So not like crazy, but the fact that you can actually get some mana, make sure you're hitting your land drops, it might see play. Rite of the Moth, this is the 4 mana reanimation I was talking about. For 1, a white and 2 black, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So it's not as good as traditional removal, but that's why it costs 4 mana, or not removal, traditional reanimation, because it does come in with a finality counter on it. You don't want to have anything with a death trigger, obviously, with this. But it has flashback, so for 6 mana you can do it again. So pretty sweet. 2 reanimations in 1 card. I like it. We've got Baseball Bat, a Selesnya 2-drop equipment. When it enters, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and whenever it attacks, tap up to 1 target creature. That's not bad. For 2 mana, you slap this onto something, you buff it up by 1, and then when you attack with it, something gets tapped, so they can't block. Pretty solid. Wildfire Wickerfolk. This card's ridiculous for an uncommon. It's a 2 mana 3/2 with haste, and if you have Delirium, it gets +1/+1 and trample. So later on in the game, I mean, this card alone satisfies 2 of the 4 Delirium, right? Then you just need like instant sorcery, land, something. Make sure you're playing Fabled Passage in your deck so you can get a land in the graveyard. It is not hard at all to trigger Delirium in Standard right now at all. It is super easy. And so later on in the game, all of a sudden this is a 2 mana 4/3 with haste and trample, which is really good. All right, we've got the Tale of Tamiyo, which there's no Tamiyo Planeswalker in this set, but who knows? Maybe there's a Tamiyo Planeswalker and something else coming up. We don't know. There won't be in Foundations. We already know the Planeswalkers in Foundations, so maybe the set after that. This kind of leads me to believe that there may be some multiversal, continuation of this story, maybe into whatever the next plane is we go to. Anyway, 3 mana for a saga. It has chapters 1, 2, and 3 all say mill 2 cards. If the 2 cards share a card type, draw a card and repeat this process. That's pretty nifty effect. If you can build your deck in a way where most of the cards in your deck are enchantments or, you know, mostly creatures or instants sorceries, whatever it is, who knows, maybe you can draw several cards this way. And, you know, in a mill strategy where you want to be milling cards out of your deck, this is pretty sweet. And then the last chapter says exile any number of target instant sorcery and or Tameo planeswalker cards from your graveyard, copy them. You may cast any number of the copies. So basically just kind of sort of lets you draw the cards that you mill, even because, like, oh hey, I could really use that removal spell, or I could really use that creature, or no, it's instant or sorcery, sorry. But yeah, I could really use that removal spell or that draw spell or board wipe or whatever it is, you know. Pretty sweet ability. We have Oblivious Bookworm, 2 mana, 2/3. At the beginning of your end step, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless the permanent entered the battlefield face down under your control this turn, or you turn a permanent face up this turn. Vanifar approves, as you would say, Daniel. This card slots right into a deck like that. It's the right colors. It's a solid 2 mana, 2/3, which isn't bad. And you draw a card at the beginning of your end step no matter what. So it's looting no matter what. Under the Skin, 2 and a green for a sorcery, Manifest Dread. You may return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. That's not bad at all. I don't know if it'll see play, but it's very solid. So we got a bunch more commander cards. All right, and then yeah, we haven't gone over these yet either. Oh man, okay. We go over these ones. I feel bad. They revealed so many more cards this week than they did last week. I feel bad. We'll try to be quick about these ones. This card is bad. Erratic Apparition, 2 mana, 1/3 flying vigilance. It gets +1/+1 whenever you trigger Eerie. Nothing crazy there. Horrid Vigor, target creature gains death touch and indestructible till end of turn. Not a new effect. 3 mana, 3/2 flash. Whenever it attacks, surveil 1. Nothing crazy there. We have Glimmerlight, which this is a little more interesting. It's a 2 mana equipment. When it enters, create a 1/1 white glimmer enchantment creature token. It's nice that it's 2 permanents in 1 card. Anything like that can be very useful in this meta. There's lots of ways to take advantage of that. And it has an equip cost of 1. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. So nothing too crazy, but a very interesting card. Glimmerburst. I like this card, actually. 4 mana, draw 2, create a 1/1 white enchantment glimmer creature token. That's not bad, especially if you have things with Eerie that you want to trigger. Daggerdaw, Megalodon. We got a 6 mana, 5/7 with Vigilance and Island Cycling. Nothing too crazy there. Creeping Peeper, 2 mana for a 2/1 that you can tap to add a blue, but spend the mana only to cast an enchantment or unlock a door or turn a permanent face up. Not a bad card, but it definitely is interesting for decks that want that effect. Being able to have a blue mana dork if you don't want to play green is pretty nice. We have Lionheart Glimmer, 5 mana for a 2/5 with Ward 2, and whenever you attack, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. This is a pretty solid Glimmer, especially because you don't have to attack with it, and it has Ward 2, so it protects itself. It's not crazy, but it's pretty good. 4 mana, Clammy Prowler, 4 mana for a 2/5. Whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn. Nothing crazy there. Bashful Beastie, 5 mana, 5/4. When it dies, Manifest Dread. Decent limited bomb. Nothing crazy in standard. Talk about some creepy art. Hand That Feeds, 2 mana, 2/2 with Delirium. If you have Delirium, whenever it attacks, it gets +2/+0 and gains menace till end of turn. That's actually pretty solid. We have Twist Reality, 3 mana, instant, choose 1, counter a spell or Manifest Dread. I don't think this will see play over 3 steps ahead, but who knows? The Manifest Dread might be useful in some cases. We have Given to Violence, 2 mana for an instant, target creature gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink until end of turn. Good limited combat trick, that's about it. Fear of Surveillance, 2 mana for a 2/2 with Vigilance. When it attacks, surveil 1. Nothing crazy there. Growing Dread for a blue and a green. It's an enchantment with flash. When it enters, Manifest Dread. Whenever you turn a permanent face up, put a +1/+1 counter on it. This is great in like Vanifar. or any other kind of Manifest Dread deck. It's 2 mana for a 2/2 that has upside, and the fact that it has flash means that you can like surprise block something, maybe even. So I like the card a lot. I think it'll see some amount of play if a Manifest Dread or face up card, face down cards matter deck becomes popular. Overgrown Zealot, 2 mana for a 0/4. This is actually really good. I like this card a lot. It's solid stat line for blocking early creatures. It doesn't die to every burn spell under the sun. It does die to cut down, but I mean, it can't be perfect. But again, this falls in line with going into a Manifest Dread or the Skies type deck. It adds a mana of any color, or you can add 2 mana of any one color, but only to turn permanents face up, which is pretty sweet. And that does work with the Skies as well. So Split Skin Doll, 2 mana for a 2/1. When it enters, draw a card, then discard a card unless you control another creature with power 2 or less. That's amazing. It's a 2 mana 2/1 that draws you a card. 90% of the time in a deck that you're playing this, you will have something else that costs 2 or less because you just play 1 mana creature. Bear Trap, 1 mana flash, artifact for 3. You can tap and sack it, deals 3 damage to a creature. Don't see that seeing play anywhere. Terramorphic Expanse is basically just another way to search for a basic that comes in play tapped. We have Reluctant Role Model, 2 mana 2/2 with survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, put a flying lifelink or +1/+1 counter on it. That's pretty sweet. And then whenever it dies or another creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, put those counters on up to 1 target creature. This is actually a really cool card. I like this card a lot. If it survives combat a few times, or you tap it for mana for some reason, and you get some pretty cool counters, you can slap them onto something else. I like it. Piggy Bank. This card's ridiculous. This is what I'm talking about. It's a 2 mana 3/2. When it dies, create a treasure. It ramps. And it's a solid power and toughness for 2 mana. Like, awesome. We've got this one, which this is the one I keep thinking of when I'm thinking of Phyrexian Arena. This is basically Phyrexian Arena, but in my opinion, probably a little bit better if you can actually get a demon onto the battlefield relatively often, and this card makes a demon on its own. So 3 mana, 2 and a black. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. If you control a demon, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Otherwise, you lose 2 life. So yes, it costs 1 more life per card that you draw, but there are plenty of turns where you could just, I mean, even if just 1 turn you have the demon from the second half of this room, which is 5 mana, unlock it, create a 6/6 black demon with flying. 5 mana for a 6/6 with flying is not bad. You immediately recoup the 2 life that you lost from the first trigger, and you're also damaging your opponent. So this is pretty sweet. Where were we? Oh no. All right, this is another one that hasn't been translated yet. Break Down the Door, 2 green instant, choose 1. Exile target artifact, exile target enchantment, Manifest Dread. I like this card a lot. It's going to be really good in standard, I think, especially in best of 1, where the Boros control deck is very, very popular. Being able to hit both Caretaker's Talent and Urabrask's Forge, and also make a creature when those things are not relevant is super good. So we have this thing, which is a 4 and a red for a 4/4 human clown berserker with haste. Whenever you attack, create a 1/1 red gremlin creature token. This isn't crazy, but it's definitely going to be good and limited. This creature is crazy because there's a few random little combos with this, like the red cat Calamity Beast from Bloomborough that says damage can't be prevented. So this is essentially an unblockable 10/1. If you can somehow pay 3 blue in like an Is It shell, and you can play this on turn 3 and then somehow still have 2 red to cast the cat, you can swing for 10 unblockable. It's pretty sweet. Otherwise, what it normally says is that it can't be blocked, and if a source you control would deal damage to opponent, prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards. So that's for everything that you deal damage with, not just this creature. So really interesting card for mill decks, but there's a few cheeky ways you can abuse this. Even just flinging it is pretty cool. Then we have Trial of Anguish, which this card's making me like mad about mono red more. 1 red, choose 2 target creatures controlled by the same opponent. That opponent, the player chooses one of them. Trial of Anguish deals 5 damage to that creature, and the other one can't block this turn. This effectively neutralizes 2 creatures for 1 mana. Because in a red deck, all you care about is just getting damage through. So for 1 mana, all of a sudden, you're triggering all your prowess. You're triggering, you know, anything else that cares about you casting an instant or sorcery. You're probably going to be able to, you know, this is probably getting cast on turn 3, turn 4 at the latest. You're probably going to be able to kill both things that you choose. So no matter what, one of them is going to die, and then the other one can't block. This is ridiculous. This card is insane, and it's an uncommon. Like, yeah, it's a sorcery, but who cares? Like, this card's busted. We've got Greenhouse and Rickety Gazebo. So Greenhouse is 2 and a green. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. It's not terrible for an uncommon. I mean, it's basically an enchantment version of Wrenn and Realmbreaker. And then for 4 mana, you can unlock this room and mill 4 cards, then return up to 2 permanent cards from among them to your hand. So nothing crazy there, but it's definitely interesting. Then we've got, oh my goodness, this went way too far. Sawblade Skin Ripper. I like this card a lot. Why did I click on it? Whenever, sorry, goodness, I'm reading the wrong card. Can you tell I'm tired? 3 mana for a 3/2 with Menace. Pay 2 mana, sacrifice another creature enchantment, put a +1/+1 counter on Sawblade Skin Ripper. At the beginning of your end step, if you sacrificed 1 or more permanents this turn, Sawblade Skin Ripper deals that much damage to any target. That's not crazy, but the fact it's a sacrifice outlet, and it puts counters on itself when you sacrifice things, and then you can ping things, you know, ping 1-2 damage here and there. That can be absolutely crazy. Sorry, I whacked my microphone there. Diversion Specialist, 4 mana for a 4/3 with Menace. Pay 1, sacrifice another creature enchantment, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. A lot of good sacrifice outlets in this set. Nothing free sacrifice, so Bartolome is still our only completely free sacrifice outlet, but not bad. Pretty cheap sacrifice. All right, I think this is the last set before we get back to stuff that we'd already gone over. Yeah, we went over all this stuff last week, so this is the last set. We're almost done. Skullcap Nuisance, 2 mana 1/4 flyer with Eerie. Whenever you trigger Eerie, surveil 1. Not terrible, but it's a solid stat line for 2 mana, and it's an insect skeleton. So if you want to play skeletons, it does get haste from the enchantment. That's pretty cool. You get a new skeleton for that deck. Vile Mutilator, 7 mana for a 6/5. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice creature enchantment. Has flying and trample. When it enters, each opponent sacrifices a non-token enchantment, then sacrifices a non-token creature. This actually might not be a bad reanimation target. It's an uncommon, but that's a strong effect. They have to sacrifice 2 things, and it's a 6/5 with flying and trample. So for an uncommon, this is not terrible. Like, casting it, probably not worth it. Reanimating it, maybe. We have Omnivorous Flytrap, which is a 3 mana 2/4 with Delirium. When it enters or attacks, if you have Delirium, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures. Then, if there are 6 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, double the number of +1/+1 counters on those creatures. This is so good. Like, what? If you have Delirium, this is a 3 mana 2/4 that puts 2 counters out, so total of 4 power, 6 toughness for 3 mana. And if you happen to have 6 card types, it doubles the counters on those creatures. I'm telling you guys, Delirium in the set is not hard. So this card's solid. Irreverent Gremlin, 2 mana 2/2 with menace. Whenever another creature you control with power 2 or less enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Do this only once each turn. This is basically, well, you know, Takasha's welcome on a 2/2 with menace. I mean, yeah, you got to discard a card, but I mean, pretty sweet. Leyline of Mutation is a 2 green enchantment. If it's in your opening hand, you get to start the game with it on the battlefield. You can pay 5 colors instead of paying the mana cost for spells that you cast. This card is going to be fun to build around. I don't know if it's going to be good, but it is going to be fun. This might even make some waves in older formats where you can cast Gigantic Eldrazi. And if you start with this in your opening hand, it's free, so watch out for that card. Emerge from the Cocoon, 4 mana sorcery, or 5 mana sorcery, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Not the best reanimation spell in the world, but not the worst. Unsettling Twins, 4 mana for a 2/2. When it enters, Manifest Dread. So you get 4/4 split across 2 bodies, and the Manifest Dread could be a better creature. Nothing crazy. Tunnel Surveyor, 3 mana for a 2/2. When it enters, create a 1/1 Glimmer enchantment creature token. Not terrible for a 3 mana card, especially if you're looking to trigger Glimmer Eerie a lot. We have Final Vengeance, 1 mana for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature enchantment, exile target creature. We already have a card like that in Standard, so nothing crazy there. Grab the Prize, 2 mana sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card, draw 2 cards. If the card discarded this way wasn't a land, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. So sort of a better loot effect if you end up discarding a non-land card. Anthropede, 4 mana for a 3/4 reach. When it enters, you may discard a card or pay 2. When you do, destroy target room. Not terrible for a common, but nothing crazy. Wary Watchdog, 2 mana for a 3/1. When it enters or dies, surveil 1. Orphans of the Wheat. This is a funny card. People really like the reference to the children of the corn or whatever it is. 2 mana 2/1. Whenever it attacks, tap any number of untapped creatures you control. Orphans of the Wheat gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature tapped this way. This is actually pretty sweet. It's a human, and a lot of the survival creatures are humans, so this could actually see play in a human strategy where you're looking to trigger those survival triggers and, you know, channel some of that power and toughness that you're losing into this. Zur approves of Eerie. Yes, agreed. Unstoppable Slasher. A hash-slinging slasher. This card's ridiculous. 3 mana 2/3 with Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life rounded up. It has Death Touch, so opponents are not going to want to block it. So it's effectively just removal. And if they don't block it, they lose half their life. And then when it dies, if it had no counters on it, you return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with 2 stun counters on it. So it comes back. Like, what? Dashing Bloodsucker, 4 mana 2/5 with Eerie. Whenever an enchantment you control enters or you fully unlock a room, it gets +2/+0 and lifelink until end of turn. Nothing too crazy there, and that is it. We did it. We made it through the spoilers. Sorry that took so long. But yeah, we did it. We made it through the spoilers. Lots of cool cards, lots of neat stuff. I am very, very, very excited about this set. I hope that you are also excited. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure to drop a comment. Let me know what cards you are most excited about. I would love to hear from you guys. I want to know what cards you're excited about. Your opinions and stuff like that helps me get an idea of what you guys want to see, what you want to see me build around. And that makes for better content for you guys too. So with that, let's go ahead and head over to Arena. There we go. Give me just a second here. All right, so now we're going to hop into the second half of our stream. Yeah, I like the toy archetype a lot too, Daniel. I think it's going to be really fun. So we have Premier Remix Draft Artifacts. What is this? I will just read it to you, I suppose, instead of explaining it myself, so that we'll get the official explanation. Select one card at a time from rotating. Oh, we know what a draft is. Remix Draft, a new limited format pulling from all. I can talk, I swear. Welcome to Remix Draft, a new limited format pulling from across all sets on Arena. This is Remix Draft Artifacts, where the spotlight is on artifacts across the multiverse. All right, so it's basically a cube-like draft. It's not cube. It's not as crazy as cube. But the packs are specially curated to be based around artifacts and artifact synergies and strategies. And this is a great way to build your collection with older cards. Like if you like to play Brawl, or you like to play Historic or Explorer or any of that stuff, this is a really great way to get some stuff that you don't really have access to, or that you don't want to go spend gold on packs for. It comes from all over Arena, so it comes even from anthologies and all kinds of other stuff. It's really cool. So we're gonna try out this format and see how fun it is and do some of this. So let's get into it. Ready, that was quick. All right. Pack one, pick one. Let's go like this. Let's see. Dragon Wing Glider is pretty sweet. It's 5 mana for a 2/2 that gets +2/+0 flying and haste. So it's like a 5 mana 4/4 dragon. Combat Thresher is pretty cool. Danitha's pretty cool. I think in this pack, though, the best card is probably Dragon Wing Glider, though. Let's take Dragon Wing Glider. Flame Discharge. X red deals X damage. Target creature, Planeswalker. If you control the modified creature, it deals X +2 instead. That's not terrible. Chief of the Foundry, artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. Welding Sparks deals X damage. Target creature X is 3 plus the number of artifacts you control. I like that card a lot. Voltage Surge, very strong red card. I'll probably take that. Citizen's Arrest, honorable mention there. The rest of the pack's pretty meh. Not a bad start to our red deck, right? Probably like to go Boros if we can. Boros has a lot of good equipment and enchantment auras and stuff like that. While we're waiting for our packs, as I say it, immediately get a pack. Tawashi Song Shaper, 2 mana 2/2. Whenever an artifact it gets +1/+0, or Scrapwork Mutt. Probably Scrapwork Mutt. Or Perilous Mirror. No, Scrapwork Mutt's better. I like Perilous Mirror too. But how are you guys doing? How's your week been? It's Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. You guys been having a good week so far? Doing anything interesting, exciting? Playing any other cool games other than Magic? Doing anything fun? Somebody will pass us a pack eventually. Mishra's researched that. Ooh, Sokendan Smelter. Very good. Work, magic, rinse, repeat. Yeah. I feel you. Warhammer. Nice. I've always wanted to play Warhammer, but I just... A, I don't have the patience to paint all the little figures, and B, it's so expensive. Gym and yoga too? Yeah, nice. Take care of yourself. Get out there and get your exercise. I got 3 crazy kids myself, so my time is work, crazy kids, magic, rinse, repeat. Space Marines 2. Yeah, I saw that on Steam recently. I haven't played it, but it looks pretty cool. Lethal Demolition. Ooh, Mandible Justice here. Oh, that's a tough choice. I think we take Justice here. I love Justice here so much. This card is so underrated in any kind of artifact deck. Yeah, I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 with my wife. They just released the 7th patch with like the official mod support and stuff for it. If you know what Baldur's Gate 3 is, you know what I'm talking about. But it's a CRPG. Really good game. Yeah, it really is. Arcbound Mouser is fantastic. Meow. I love how these have like the great. That was from the beginning of the game. They never changed the cat sound. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is really good. My wife and I have played through it quite a few times. It's amazing how multiplayer friendly they managed to make that game. Like they did such a good job with it. It makes me sad that they're not planning on working on Baldur's Gate 4. But I hope that whoever does work on Baldur's Gate 4 will try to live up to what they put into 3. I guess Enterprising Scallywag is our best one here. Do I really want to take another Enterprise? We're probably gonna cut one of those. Recommission artifact or creature mana value 3 or less. Yeah, that's pretty good. Is it better than another scrap work mutt though? No, let's take the mutt. Renegade map. Probably not going to play that, but take the song paper. Razor Tide Bridge is another Sokendan Smelter. Ooh, and Toolcraft. Ah, this is tough because those 2 cards are amazing. I'm gonna take Exemplar, and I'm gonna hope that the Smelter comes back. I don't think it will though. Not in this format. Plated Onslaught. Affinity for artifact creatures you control get +1/+. Oh, another Justice here. There we go. I love artifacts. Like Mirrodin's one of my favorite planes. It's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorite planes. Like I would love so much for them to go back to Mirrodin. But like old school Mirrodin. Like I don't want like weird new Phyrexia Mirrodin. I want like old school Mirrodin. Arcbound Tracker, I like. Ooh, Iron Apprentice is good too, though. Take Tracker. I like Modular. Modular is a cool ability. We like putting counters on things when things die. It's always nice. This is coming together quite nicely, I'd have to say. Got a pretty solid, like, artifacty aggro deck. Dragon Wing Glider might actually be too expensive for this deck. We might end up playing like a very low to the ground Untethered Express. Interesting. Is it better than Iron Apprentice? Probably not. Especially with modular. Another Arcbound, or no, Slasher's new. Citizen's Arrest, Exile. Removal. We like removal. Removal's always good. Any minute now, we'll get another pack to draft with. And our opponents will pass us some cards. And then we'll pick one. You should log in and play artifacts when my deck is made. Captain Lannery Storm. Heck yeah. Danitha. Tracker though. We're not really playing very many equipment right now, so let's take the tracker. Goblin Tomb Raider. Rustvale Bridge, actually. I'm gonna take Rustvale Bridge. Raven Inspector is a fantastic thing. Glad that came back. Just so you guys know, well, just while I'm sitting here waiting instead of just being silent, take Plated Onslaught, maybe we'll play that. I will probably only have, I might not make any more standard videos leading up to Duskmorn, just because anything I make right now, like crafting it, is going to be kind of risky, considering that the format could change pretty dramatically, and will, in my opinion, change very dramatically after Duskmorn releases. So I did post one today, and I think the deck I posted today is actually good enough to upgrade after Duskmorn. But anything else I make is probably just gonna not be relevant in like 2 weeks. So I put up a poll on the community tab, and people seemed interested in draft videos, so I might do another like video about this draft or live stream with this draft. I plan on doing a historic brawl video in the coming weeks, and probably an explorer video as well, so keep your eyes out for those. And if those are not your thing, just bear with me. It's just next week the streamer event is starting, and I did not get invited, unfortunately, this time around. I'm still not quite big enough for that. Take another bridge. So during the week that all the other MTG streamers are making videos playing Duskmorn decks, it would be pretty silly of me to be making standard decks that are gonna be useless. in a week. So just bear with me while I kind of get through that like week and a half of not being able to do anything standard wise. I hope that you guys will still take a few minutes to catch those videos. But if not, I totally understand. But if you've been thinking about getting into Brawl or Explorer, maybe check out those videos when I drop them. I got a pretty sweet Brawl commander lined up for a video, so another Dragon Wing Glider. Ooh, Dowsing Device. I love Dowsing Device. Rabbit Battery, very good. We're actually a little... we're gonna have to cut a few cards, probably. Getting a little overloaded. Too many good picks. It's the only thing that's unfortunate about streaming drafts is the intermission time waiting. Nothing really good in this pack for us. So we'll take the uncommon, since this does count towards our vault. We like wild cards. Do you like wild cards? Yes, I like wild cards. What would I cut? Some cool little sound effect for that guy. Samurai. What would I cut? I don't know what I'd cut. Well, we're gonna take Lethal Demolition because it's an artifact draft. So I imagine 1 mana to kill the opponent's something was not bad, so. Yeah, so like that's why this this draft is neat. You get access to some really cool stuff that maybe you couldn't get when it was in standard. I think it's really a fun and interesting format. I think it's a cool thing that they do. It gives me something to do while I'm waiting for the new set to drop. Only gotta wait 13 more days, so not too terrible. Alright, we gotta make 2 cuts. I think... I want to keep the Dragon Wing Glider, actually. What else could I cut, though? I mean, I guess we don't really need Citizen's Arrest. We have some decent removal already. And... maybe cut an Iron Apprentice. We have a lot of 1-drops. This looks fine. Let's go with this. All right, on to the games. The exciting part. Ready. Tendrid. I have not played any limited recently, so yes, I'm in bronze. This is a great hand. We get a Toolcraft Exemplar on 1, Mandible Justice here on 2, and then if we draw a 3rd land, we can play Smelter and then sacrifice the... oh wait, no, I'm thinking of Thraben Inspector. Still a really good curve. If this was a Thraben Inspector, though, we could sacrifice the clue to this to make a 3-1. This is also a very good curve, though. Say hello to my little friend. Forest. Teething Wormlet. Alright, Justice here. Hello. 3-2. And we did find our third mana. Another forest for the opponent. Opponent gets in for one. You got me. Gaia's Gift. Sure. No, whatever am I gonna do? How about this? Take 7. I'd say things are going quite well. Then we can play this Iron Apprentice, sacrifice it to the Sokendan Smelter, put a counter on something, and make a 3-1 with haste. Opponent's gonna draw a card. They're being greedy. They're getting in there with their Wormlet. That's not gonna help them. And we get to make a treasure token with this. So Iron Apprentice. Go to combat. Autopay. Sacrifice. Counter here. Roar! This is ridiculous. This deck's awesome. The power! You'll take the damage. Take it now. Victory! All right, and then the packs you get from this, I forget what the packs are, but they're like random packs too. So like the packs you win, I can't remember if they're from standard or if they're from all over arena or not. DMC-RC, we get to go first. This is a little less exciting of a hand, but it's not terrible. We have a curve, so Iron Apprentice. Lane for the opponent. Play a Lion Sash. Get in for 1. Got a lot of modular stuff going on. Ornithopter of Paradise. It does block one of our 1/1s. Maybe I should have played the Arcbound Tracker first. So that way they might think I have like a combat trick, but Ultec Cloud Guard. Get in with the tracker. See if they want to block. I doubt it. Alright, let's play the Scrapwork Mutt. Discard. Draw. What do you got, opponent? Arcanist Owl. Top 4, pick an artifact or enchantment, put it in your hand, and then they still have 1 mana left over. They pick Static Net. Alright. Rabbit Battery. Opponent gets in with their Cloud Guard. We're thinking about attacking with the gnome since all of our stuff technically has 1 toughness. Wow, another land. Alright. Sure. Opponent's going to block the Iron Apprentice. They're thinking about blocking the Mutt. Why block it with the Rabbit Battery, though? Why not block it with the Gnome? It makes no sense. Alright. Counter on the Justiciar. I'm going to unearth this now. Because I would like to maybe play something else this turn. Like that. Pass the turn, and now we have some stuff to eat with Lion Sash. Static Net, sure. They're going to hit our Justiciar probably. That's fine, though. Why are you attacking with the gnome? Okay, there you go. Let's go ahead and eat the Rabbit Battery out of their graveyard. My goodness. Alright, Arcbound Mouser. Get in like this. Exile the land. Exile the Apprentice. We'll leave the Arcbound Tracker since we do have a way to reanimate that technically. Barricade Breaker. Improvise, attacks each combat. That's not even that big of a deal, really. Bye-bye. Alright. We just gotta survive the rest of this turn and we're good. Opponent's got 7 damage on board, so if they can find 2 more damage, we're dead, but I still think that was the correct play. Okay, that doesn't matter. I thought that was a buff to their creatures for half a second, and I was like, no! Renegade map. Here's a balloon for you, opponent. Just for you. Opponent can't attack here. They have to know that. There we go. Rebel Salvo! Alright, well that solves that problem. Opponent cannot profitably block here. Gotta block with both. Get rid of the gremlins since that can grow. Then we get to put the counters on the Arcbound Mouser. Pass the turn. And we'll eat a bunch of stuff with Lion Sash. So even if they do manage to put enough stuff out to block with. Oh, that's unfortunate. Sure. It's unfortunate because it does let them live. Although they have to block with that Cloud Guard this turn now. Sacrifice the map, get a basic. They get a mountain. What are you gonna do, buddy? They're in the think tank. Oh, okay. I guess we win. GG. Dragon Wing Glider for the win. All right. 2 in a row. All right, into match 3. First 2 matches went pretty well. I like this format a lot, though. I think that doing, I hope they do more stuff like this, but like maybe with different themes. This is a great hand. Yeah, we can't play a turn 1 card, but that's okay. Run at mulligans. Got the Karlach sleeves, since we were just talking about BG3. I also am rocking some pretty sweet Beholder sleeves. And Tasha is also technically D&D. Rustvale Bridge. Ryland for the opponent. We'll play a Justice here. Forest for the opponent and a Sarenth Steel Seeker. Alright, well we're gonna play an Arcbound Tracker. Get in for 3. Gain 3 life. This card is so good. I love this card. Chief of the Foundry. Sure. Doesn't do anything for him right this second. Arcbound Mouser. Voltage Surge. Get rid of the Chief. Smack him for 7. This deck feels good. This is a great limited pool. Captain Lannery Storm next turn. Okay, he's got some blockers now, and he's getting some potential draw triggers here. But if we draw a land, we can just play 2 mutts. Grow both the Mandible and the Arcbound Tracker. Nothing on the first or second trigger. Hey, look at that, a land. Mutt. Let's discard the mutt, actually. Ooh, Dowsing Device. Heck yeah. Haste. Roar. Go ahead, block. I'd say he's already gained me 12 life after this turn. I am okay with that. And we up-traded a 2-mana to a 4-mana creature, because this is the whole thing is the whole 4-mana creature. This deck is great. Yep. put myself up to a cool 32. Opponent's down to 3. We've got Scrapwork Mutt and Captain Lannery Storm with haste next turn. I think this opponent is toasty. Sure. Unless you got another creature, you're just going to die to the Menace Arcbound Tracker. Moonsnare Prototype. So far they have whiffed on all these triggers. Eye of Malcator. Well, that's a GG. I keep 2 on top, but it's not going to matter. Aw, come on. I just wanted to play my stuff. GG. Rio. Let's keep it up. Any minute now, we'll find somebody. There we go. Paradise PGG. All right, Paradise. We get to go first. I like it. It's nothing too crazy, but it's good little curve here. Opponent's also a red gamer. Vault Scourge. Alright. Let's play Token Smelter. Scallywag. Voltage Surge. Get in for 2. Mr. Wrinkles is the chillest cat. He's... Hold on. See if you can hear him meow when he yells at me whenever I wake him up. Like, why'd you wake me up? Big yawn. Play Scrapwork Mutt. Draw a card, discard a card. Our opponent's gonna kill our Soken'Zan Smelter. That's unfortunate. Darn. Discard, battery, draw a card. Get in for 2. Thank you. Yes, he's technically, so it's ironic because he's technically my wife's cat, but he loves to sleep on my desk in this little bed. So when I'm working, he's like my little partner in crime. Opponent's probably gonna block our Captain Lannery Storm. If they're smart. They don't. All right. Right, every Batman needs his Robin, for sure. Sibling Rivalry. Gain control, untap it. It gains... haste, okay. So they snatched my thing from me. They make a treasure. They're gonna gain 1. But they're potentially dead on the crackback here. Oh no, they can sacrifice a creature. Okay. I didn't read that card. They sacrificed my captain. No! Another Arcbound Mouser. Sure, you got it. We need to draw something good here. That's not something good. Alright, let's attack like this. See if they block with their... They might block the Scrapwork Mutt. Maybe. They do not. Gotta draw something good here soon. We're flooding out. That's a good draw for them. Oh, gross. They're gonna sacrifice the Slasher to put 5 counters on the Mouser. Oh, yeah, okay. They win. GG. Our card's too low to the ground. There's no one card we can draw that's gonna get us out of them gaining 6 life and dealing 10 to us this turn. Alright, so we're 3-1. All we gotta do is win 7. Easy peasy, right? Avatar Delo Virtual. Virtual Avatar. We get to go first. I like it. Get down our Rustveil Bridge. Blink Moth Nexus and Candy Trail for the opponent. Opponent's gonna scry 2. We will play a Plains and get down Justiciar. Let the beatdown commence. Opponent is also playing red, so our Justiciar may not live. Ooh, Gleeful Demolition, alright. Arcbound Mouser. Rabid Battery. They want to trade all 3 gremlins for this Justiciar. I mean, I'm fine with that. I still gain 4 life out of it and deal with their board. Cue the Rocky music. Bum, 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 bum. Alright, Shipwreck Sentry has Defender. So let's play Lion Sash. Salvo. Get in. And we can start growing the Lion Sash next turn. Mountain. Galvanic Juggernaut. Attacks each turn, if able. Doesn't untap. Let's play Mutt. Let's discard Inspector. Draw a card. Okay, found another land. Exile Sentry. Put another counter on the Lion Sash. Lizard Blades. Oh boy. Alright. So Juggernaut has double strike now. Thank goodness for the life we gained. Opponent's just going for it, sure. I'll take 10. Oh my gosh, alright. Exile the Candy Trail. Exile Thraben Inspector. Exile Mouser. I can deal a lot of damage in one turn too, sir. Opponent's at 5. The only way that Juggernaut's untapping is if something dies. So hopefully they don't have a removal spell. If they do, it's still only 10 damage, and we still win on the backswing. Potentially. We potentially win on the backswing. They have blockers and stuff that complicates things. Upriser Renegade, not doing them any favors. Alright, Toolcraft Exemplar. This should make it pretty hard for them to, even if they have instant speed removal, then that kind of sucks. Which it looks like they might. Nope, okay. I think they still die this way. Because they have to block the Exemplar and the Lion Sash, and then we can just sacrifice the treasure to grow the Captain. Five damage. GG! We got there. If you're just joining, welcome. Thank you for joining the live stream. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. We are halfway through a Remix Artifact Draft, which is a new draft format on Arena for the next couple of weeks. Ooh, nice mythic reward there. Pretty sweet. Where you draft from a specially curated set that is based around artifact synergies, and you get to keep the cards you draft. So it's a really good way to build your collection if you are looking for some artifacts from older sets or weird sets or anthologies or other different places on Arena where you can maybe not get them very easily. It's also very fun. And then I will have to tell you after I collect rewards. I don't remember what these packs are. I think they're just packs from like randomly across Arena, but I'm not sure. But we are currently 4-1 with this Boros artifacts list that we drafted, and it's pretty sweet. And we're having a good time. Waiting is over. Cedric LeBlanc. Alright, Cedric. Let's do it to it. This is alright. We can't cast the Lion Sash right this second, but we'll draw white eventually. Dowsing Device is such a good card. I actually have a really sweet standard deck built around that. Scrapwork Mutt. Opponent discards a land, draws a card. Alright. Kawoshi Song Shaper. Get in there. Need to draw a white mana or some more artifact stuff that has to do with red. Oh, there's a white mana, but it's a little too slow. Oh, no, it's not. If they want to block here, I'm fine with that. Nope. Rustfall, the artifact lands are super sweet. I almost forgot about that synergy. Ultec Cloud Guard makes a 1/1 gnome, grows the gremlins. Opponent gets in for 4. Oh, wow, alright. Just gain a casual 6 back. Now everything we play can have haste. Another gremlins. If they play scrapwork, nope, they don't. They should have unearthed that, to be honest. If they're not going to do anything else, yeah, they definitely should have done that. I need more white mana, please. That's gross. Ow. Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah. We're getting flooded. Suppose I could cut a land. So before we lose our third game, let's cut a land. We have gotten flooded twice. Cut a mountain and add... That plated onslaught. So it has affinity for artifacts, so it never actually costs 5 mana. That's a pretty sweet combat trick. Any minute now, we're gonna find an opponent to play. It's just gonna take a minute or two. You know, in all my time since I've started being a content creator, nobody's called me out for my weird singing that I do when I'm bored. I'm not gonna lie, I expected somebody to call me out for it by now. But not yet. Enderbro 5876. Silver player, alright, we're climbing the ranks now. Opponent's going first. We don't have any red mana. But we do have 3 things we can cast without the red mana, and one of them's a loot. So I'm gonna trust that we draw what we need. Another plains is quite ironic. Oh, you're funny. Real funny, deck. Okay, I can't make this stuff up. Like, my deck is literally making fun of me right now. It's like, oh, you're gonna draw a red? No. Here's 3 lands, but they're all plains. Ha! What? Oh my gosh. You've got to be kidding me. This is the most ironic thing. It's hilarious. Like, it's literally taunting me. I said, oh, we'll draw a red mana, and it gave me 3 lands consecutively, all plains. And we lose our Lion Sash now. That's no fun. I draw another card that needs red to be played. Last game I did flood on red and I needed white mana. This game I'm flooding on white and I need red mana. If I draw plains off this, I swear. Oh no. Oh no. I can't even unearth it because it needs red. Oh, this is so messed up. This is how I'm gonna lose my deck. This is such a good deck. Oh, there's the red. There's the red, just a turn too late. Might be able to salvage this, maybe. Probably not, but... Another Palladium Mirror. I don't think there's any... Yeah, it was pretty touchy about drop. I dropped a mountain too, so it was like, oh, you want to drop mountains, do you? Yeah. Opponent wins. How ironic is that? That's the card that I added in place of the land. Plated Onslaught is the card I played and I put in place of the mountain, and they killed me with it. That's weird. It's just an artifact, but it makes a 2/2 creature that attaches to it. Oh well, 4 wins is still good. We still make 1,400 gems. And yeah, so like these are just it looks like random standard packs. So like 2 Phyrexia all V1, couple Bloomburrow. Yeah, that was pretty evil. I agree. And gems because we have all that set pretty much. Is it beautiful? Is that the word we're using? Yes, technically it does. All right. Well, I don't have enough time to do another draft before I would normally sign off for the night. So, I'm going to call it here because I don't want to do a draft and then not play it for you guys. And I don't really have any standard decks to show you guys right this minute. I will take a quick moment to just ask you guys, if you are not already, to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. As always, I'm sure most of you are already subscribed that are here right now. But if you're watching this after the fact, I would greatly appreciate that. I will have a historic brawl list. You can see here, Alila is going to be the brawl commander for it. So flying matters, enchantment artifact matters, kind of cool brawl commander. So keep an eye out for that list coming up in the next week or so. And then I have a Bant Blink Explorer list that I will be making a video about, featuring Eerie Interlude as one of the main cards interacting in there. Very neat stuff. I'm excited to show those to you guys and play something a little different on the channel. If you haven't seen it already, I did release a Jeskai Super Friends control list today. So if you haven't checked that out already, make sure you do that. The deck is very good, very fun, and it's definitely something that can be upgraded profitably after Duskmorn releases. Also, another quick moment just to say, I do have memberships available. I have just started doing members-only content. Nothing too crazy, but I will have probably at least one members-only stream before the end of the month, as well as some behind-the-scenes stuff, things like that. Absolutely not required, but a great way to support the channel if that's something that you're interested in doing. And with that, I will catch you guys in the next one.